a director of marketing is actually, in a way, an amazing project manager.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, you don't need to know how to do it all, but you need to understand it all. I can't say we're the best. So what is the best? What is the equation that equals the best? Just having a strong sense of who your audience is, age, demographics, psychographics. That's probably not, again, the greatest thing for the president of a member association to say, but I'm also a realist.
Welcome to the Cincinnati Business Podcast, where we give you practical tips and tricks to grow yourself and your business. And brought to you by the Cincinnati Podcast Studio. All right, so for those of you who are struggling in the world of marketing, this episode is for you. I brought on an expert that I'm really excited to have a conversation with because she is talented in multifaceted fields. One, she is the president of the Cincinnati chapter of the American Marketing Association. I almost said AMA, but no one would know what that meant when I said that. You're exactly right. Because American Medical Association, whatever. Anyway. And you are director of communications and marketing I said that backwards, director of marketing and communication over at Foster and Motley. So you deal with interesting combination of broad scale marketing and niche rule-based, like you have to follow a lot of compliance issues marketing. So I'm excited to talk. Betsy, thank you so much for coming today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here and chat and share what I've learned.
I love it. Well, so one of the things that you had mentioned that is actually really interesting to me is you are now in this world of marketing, but you didn't start there. You actually went back and got a master's in marketing. What was the decision for you to be like, hey, I want to make that shift?
Yeah. So I had a pretty good career as an executive assistant, had been an office manager, but had really found a great place as an executive assistant in a company that I loved. And an opportunity came up where two of the shareholders, I was at Foster Motley, where I still am, they decided to rebrand, and I got to help from an administrative side and was like, ooh, that's really cool. I like that. Mm-hmm. And so I dipped my toe in it. They were super supportive of me getting more involved, doing a little bit. And the more I got to thinking, I was at a kind of an inflection point in my life where it was like, this job is great. This firm is amazing, in my opinion, as an employee. And how can I be more career oriented versus just have a job? Admin work had always been kind of a job. I did it, but it was, you leave at 5 and you're done. And I just wanted more out of life. And so when I got this taste of marketing, I was like, this is it. This is this is my next chapter. And so they were super supportive of me digging in with the two shareholders that were doing the rebrand. It was initially just as I had capacity while I was still working on the financial planning team, and then shifting to becoming part of my job as a marketing coordinator. And then it became my full-time job, and they were just super supportive of every step of that. And then I chose to go back to school and get a master's. They didn't push me to do that, but they were supportive of that financially and emotionally and time-wise.
Nice.
Just very supportive of that and me getting a more refined education around it, because I was involved with AMA at the time. I was learning through that, which was a great resource, but it was just more, that traditional education. And in doing that, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of the foundational stuff that I missed out on because my undergrad degree was not in marketing.
Yeah.
My undergrad is in speech communication, which is related, which I think is one of those degrees that really shouldn't be a degree. It should be general studies classes that everybody has to take. But yeah, it's been a fun journey, and it hasn't even been that long, but it feels like a lifetime.
Well, I mean, you said you've now been in this, 6-7 years now doing this, and it's pretty incredible that you started volunteering. Now you're the head of the local chapter of the AMA, which is amazing. You guys just won, I think, third best chapter in the entirety of the AMA.
This is true.
That's insane. Well done.
It is.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so proud of my board and our volunteers. They put in a ton of effort. It is a fully volunteer organization, and we've got about 18 people on our board, plus about 7 or 8 community leaders who really pour their heart and soul into the marketing community here in Cincinnati. So
yeah. Now, we are not official members of the AMA, but we've been tangentially connected with the AMA for a while now, and we are big fans of you guys. You guys are amazing at what you do. You put on amazing events. And since we are the Cincinnati Business Podcast, you Cincinnati people, if you guys want to learn more about marketing, you should get connected. Okay, plug over. So I want to bust a myth real quick. There's kind of this weird myth that I hear from like business owners is when they're trying to hire a marketer at their company, they look for a unicorn, the person who can do it all, the person who can write copy, do design, update the website, do video, do all these things at once. and they want it at a $50,000 salary.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Who wouldn't?
I know, that would be amazing. I think there's this myth that marketers have to be good at everything. And I know you and I were joking that a director of marketing is actually, in a way, an amazing project manager.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, you don't need to know how to do it all, but you need to understand it all. And that's the important part. So I am not a graphic designer. I am not a copywriter, but I understand those pieces of the marketing puzzle well enough to find the right external resources to help me, or even internal tools, whether that's AI or other softwares, platforms that support different marketing efforts. But yeah, it is project management. It is vendor management, especially when it's a team of one. So I'm in-house, team of one. I do have amazing administrative support, but it's still all the marketing efforts come through me. And I'm honored that they trust me with that, but it's a lot. It's absolutely a lot. And I certainly don't do it all. I just oversee it all. I manage it all. So I keep the strategy in-house, making sure that everything's integrated, that we are consistent across the board with our message. But I use some phenomenal external resources to actually execute on our vision.
Well, since you're so connected into the marketing community here in Cincinnati, are you finding that business owners are actually wising up to the idea that they are managers of vendors as marketers, or do you think that people are still wanting somebody who does it all?
I think it's a lack of understanding. I think business owners, especially small business, don't understand the details of marketing and the different pieces of the puzzle that it takes different skill sets. So even if I switch it to the industry that I work in, so the financial services industry, we do financial planning and investment management, which is a combined service that we call wealth management. Those financial planners, they're insightful enough and they understand investments enough that they could do investment management, but it's really a different discipline within the financial services arena. Okay. So that was part of how I was able to explain to the leadership in my firm that, hey, look, you're a financial planner, you're not expected to do investment management. Investment manager, you're not expected to do full-on financial planning, but you're all considered financial advisors. So different disciplines within the same kind of umbrella world. Yeah. So within marketing, yes, we're all marketers, but there are creatives, there are, videographers, there are graphic designers, there are copywriters, there are website developers, there's the back end stuff of websites, the technology behind it that I don't even want to try to understand. Yeah. I am so grateful for my web development support team because I wouldn't have a clue even where to start. Yeah. So I think unfortunately that's still a problem, and hopefully this will help some people understand that, it's not about finding the person who knows how to do it all. It's about finding the person who understands it, who is a kind of, to some degree, a jack or Jane of all trades in terms of an understanding, but then can find the best local or not even local. My digital marketing firm is a fully online. They all work remote. They're all over the country. It's effective. It works. They don't have to be local. So I think it's really more about understanding the various marketing disciplines and finding the right partners to bring to support. Not everybody has the budget necessarily to hire a bunch of external vendors. So maybe you do need to hire somebody who is a great copywriter, but also understands design enough to just hire the designer, but do the copyright. So I think it's, for those small businesses looking to hire one marketer, they need to kind of maybe prioritize, maybe even start with a consulting firm and understand, or an agency, and understand what type of marketing do they really need their in-house person to be able to do?
That makes sense.
And then, okay, so they can do this, but they understand these other pieces to bring in the right partners.
That totally makes sense. Here's a question for you. How did you find the last podcast that you listened to? Was it recommended by a friend? Did you see an ad for it? Or what about a short clip online that made you want to listen more? Here at the Cincinnati Podcast Studio, we help you produce your own podcast. And with your show, we create up to 8 clips per episode to help you reach your audience faster. These clips are short, engaging, and with catchy subtitles because we know your audience is probably scrolling on their phone, muted on the toilet. If you've been wanting to start or upgrade your podcast, check us out at CincinnatiPodcastStudio.com. So then here's another question that I have, because I feel like as a business owner myself, and I've seen so many people think this way, do you believe that marketers should be responsible for bottom line revenue inside the company?
No, I think they're a contributor. And I'm grateful that that's something that I've gotten to learn a lot about, because there's a lot of misconceptions across the industry as a whole. But marketing is, in my opinion, and a lot of people that I've learned from, it's a support device to that. So I think a lot of times sales and marketing are coupled together, or they are overlapping. I have a lot of friends in the marketing industry that their job is directly to support sales, but they're not responsible for it. And I think that works. I'm grateful that, at Foster and Motley, we don't have a sales team. All of our advisors are responsible for some level of business development. Mm-hmm. All employees really are, because it's something anybody can do. It's something, that is, it's not siloed to just a sales team in our world. And so, I am grateful when advisors come to me with an idea, or they get asked the same question over and over by a prospect. And it's like, let's build something that answers this a little more eloquently, or that visualizes that answer. And that has helped us create a lot of our tools. But marketing is so much more than sales support. So it is sales support. It does affect the bottom line, but I don't think it should be responsible for it.
That makes sense. Yeah. I don't know, is it because you think that sales and marketing is a phrase that people seem to think that that coincides together?
I think that's probably part of it. I also think there's the expectation that, the website is going to drive sales, or it's going to close sales, and that the pieces that marketers do, the visualization of the business in some sense, are what's going to drive that. And it's like, in some worlds it might. If you're selling a cog, if you're selling an item, maybe you can attribute it to marketing. But in a world like financial services, it takes so many touch points. It takes so much information for a client to make the decision or a prospect to make the decision to become a client, that there's personal relationship involved. We need somebody to talk to them. So marketing is never going to close the sale. In the financial services world. I shouldn't say never, but it's highly unlikely. We draw them in. We make sure we're putting the right things at the top of the page. We are, honored to have been included in some great awards and lists nationally. Mm-hmm. And that is oftentimes something that people are like, hey, I heard about you here, but then I saw that, and that validated your excellence in this industry. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we wanted to schedule a meeting with you and 3 other firms.
Yeah.
And, so I think that's the piece where marketing comes in, is to say, hey, these are pieces of information. This is the psychology of it. This is what people want to know. This is what people want to see. Yeah. But they need to then sit across from somebody in our industry that they can relate to. Yeah. And so that's a big part of our initiative, has been for the last 2 years, and will continue to be, is humanizing our team. Because financial services is a very human world. And I know I took a little bit of a curve there.
I like it. Because that was one of the things that I had never seen before when I looked at your website, is that you have a video of each advisor connected to their profile that you have on the website. Yeah. I'd never seen that before at a financial services firm. I'd seen photos and bios. Sure. That's normal. That's all over the place. What was kind of the decision making for you to say, no, we need to get a video of everybody so that people get to know them? Yeah,
that's a great question, because we're actually getting ready to we actually just re-recorded all those videos of all of our advisors, because those have been out there and they're great. And if, depending on when this airs, if you see the existing ones, they're much more about the firm, actually. But it still gives you a chance to kind of hear their tone of voice and hear how they approach things. And it's still a point of relationship. But the ones that we just re-recorded are about 50-50 about why they're in the role they're in, but also them personally. What's their family like? What part of town do they live in? Are they Reds fans? Are they Bengals fans? Do they read? What are they interested in? Because financial services is such a kind of touchy point in people's lives. Their money is a big deal, and we want them to feel comfortable. And the more you connect with somebody, naturally, the more you feel comfortable with them. Yeah. And it's not always like-mindedness, but it's just knowing that they're a real human, that we're not just some big machine. We're locally owned. We have 14 going on 15 shareholders. And it's really important for us to be very human-centric. Yeah. And so those videos were a part of the original website overhaul that we did when after we rebranded in probably 2017, maybe going into 18. Okay. And at the time, it was really just to give the firm a little bit more of a personal face. So it started with that humanizing, and I've tried to take it to the next level of, yes, we are real people. That proves that. But we're real relatable people.
Awesome. So the interesting thing about, Foster Motley is killing it. They're like one of the best firms in Cincinnati. They are amazing at what they do. Their name is everywhere. And that is relatable to you because your job is to get their name everywhere. But in the world of financial services, there is this thing called compliance.
There is indeed.
And everyone I know shudders the moment they start talking about it. And it's depending on the person, it can either paralyze or say, this is a challenge we need to overcome.
Yeah, it absolutely energizes me. It creates a filter. It makes you work harder and do better.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't have the easy out of saying we're the best. I can't say we're the best. You can't, what's the word I'm looking for? You can't quantify that. So what is the best? What is the equation that equals the best? I can say we're credentialed. Our advisors are credentials because they have worked hard. They have done the education. They do the continuing education. I can say that we're experts in our field because we've been doing it for almost 30 years and we have those credentials that, we are experts in these areas. But there's a lot of things that I can't say, and that makes you just have to work harder and do better and make it more relatable.
Mm-hmm.
What, people want things that are true. Obviously, authenticity is incredibly important, but it keeps you from those things that it's like, I saw a museum I was looking at going to. There was like best museum in the world. I'm like, according to who and by what metric? That isn't a question Foster Motley is going to get because we're not putting anything out there like that because we can't. But also I don't want to. I want it to be proof. So when we have an award, you see the criteria. Our compliance constraints, there's, we've got fine print, which I don't love in theory, but I love that it explains who thought that we deserve to be on that list, why we made the list, who, what is the criteria that they were looking at.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful to have a phenomenal compliance officer that I work really well with and really closely with, and we have a mutual respect. Very often, I'll send something that he's like, I'm not sure, but it's hardly ever a no. It's a let's discuss it. Let's figure out a way around. Okay. If this is the phrase you want to use, how will we quantify that if an examiner asks a question? And I think that's an important part of it. I think marketing as a whole is about having good relationships with vendors, which we already talked about, kind of the project vendor management part, but it's also that internal stakeholder, the understanding of the pieces, having great relationships with finance, with compliance, with, COO, CEO, every level of leadership, because it touches all of it. You're representing the firm. I am grateful to be responsible to have our name all over the city. But when questions come down, I need to be able to answer to anybody who saw it or has somebody comment on it.
Well, I think that's actually a really valuable point. There's so many people, especially I feel like creatives sometimes struggle in the world of like they want to be siloed in the thing that they do and they want to just do it and they want to do it really well. And a lot of people don't recognize the amount of relationship that is required in these moments to really be able to push the ball forward. I think about my time at Crossroads when I decided that I needed to be best friends with the IT guys because I knew that I was going to break their system at some point because I had just enough things going on in my space that I was like, I can plug in a cable wrong and take the whole system down. So let's make sure I'm friends with you guys.
Yes.
And I love that perspective of like, you need to be well connected with the other people inside of your organization to really be able to push that ball forward.
Yes, that's critical. And I've learned that the hard way because you don't always naturally get along with the people that you need strong relationships with, and you've got to find a way to it. And so, finding common ground, or actually just saw this really great article about Benjamin Franklin and his approach to building trust and kind of getting over the hurdle of dealing with somebody you don't like. And it was the idea of ask them for a favor, but something in their wheelhouse. And so there was a guy, I don't remember who it was in his world, that he did not get along with, but that guy had a rare book that Benjamin Franklin wanted to read. And so he reached out and said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can I borrow that book? And that spoke to that guy's passion. It showed some common ground and it paved the way and things went up from there. So I love the idea of, you so often think like to get somebody on your good side, like I've got to do something for you. But in reality, that probably does work sometimes. Actually, it does work sometimes. I've experienced that. Like, go out of your way for somebody else. But also the idea of asking and showing that you trust them and that you're it's handing them the olive branch and not just extending the olive branch. I thought that was really intriguing. And so all week I've been thinking like, okay, where are areas, like who are the people that I want to build a stronger relationship with? I'm grateful to say that I get along with everybody at my firm, stronger relationships with some than others, which is always going to be natural. But, where are the places that, I want to deepen that within the AMA and within work, because relationships are hugely important in marketing.
So then, as a marketer dealing with compliance, one of the things that I've referenced him on the show a couple times. I don't know if you know John Bob here locally. Amazingly talented creative, kind of started in the world of photography, but he's kind of one of those guys that just does everything.
Sure.
Like he had a pop-up restaurant at one point for some reason because he wanted to try it. I'm like,
Why
heck
not?
yeah, dude.
Yeah, go.
One of the things that I love that he said once is in high school there was a poster on the wall that said creativity cannot exist without boundaries. And when I think about it, as a marketer in a compliance I don't want to say riddled, but like with compliance, you have these boundaries built for you. Has there been besides that personal relationship with your compliance officer, is there a trick or a tool that you picked up while you're doing this that has helped you navigate the boundaries that you have to go through?
I think one is understanding. It's important to me to know the compliance rules, not as good as the compliance officer, but that it's not a constant check. It's kind of like the idea of fraudulent money. How do you know it's fraudulent? Because you know what the real thing looks like. So similar with compliance, like it's important to me to know the rules and not constantly be violating them because I wasn't aware. So knowing what I can, what we're allowed to do and what we're not is important. There are things I miss, or there are things that change that I haven't been, made aware of yet. That happens. And that's, again, having the good relationship is like, hey, just FYI. But I think that's a big part of it. I think it does. I think having filters, having boundaries pushes anyone to be more creative. So another piece of my world that you're familiar with is event planning. So did that for 25 years, still do it on occasion. But the hardest weddings to plan were those that had no budget because you don't have this set of parameters to work within. So budgets force you to be more creative because you want this feeling, this vibe, whatever it is, but you've only got X dollars to spend. You've got to work twice as hard to get that thing. So it forces you to be more creative. So I absolutely agree that real great creativity can't happen without boundaries because you need them to push you to see something that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. If there's no boundary and you can do anything, it's not gonna be great. It's gonna just be something.
Yeah, that is so true. All right, I want to change gears here. I want to talk to the business owner who has to do everything. Let's say small businesses.
Sure.
I want to talk to the guy who is great at running his business, great at doing the thing that his business does. But he is now saddled with the descriptor of also being the marketer for the business. And one of the things that you had mentioned earlier before we got on the air is that you love the fundamentals of marketing. And I would love to hear, just from your perspective, what are some things that a solo operator business style model needs to think about when they're thinking about their marketing? What are some of those basics they need to know?
I think the first thing is who their audience is. You're not ever going to do it well if you're not talking to the right person. So hopefully as they've developed their business and as they've worked on whatever it is that they're selling or whatever service it is that they're offering, they know who their target audience is. So really honing in on that is absolutely critical. There's a big push around having an ideal client profile. Some people will say that you have to have one that represents your entire business. In our firm, we actually have 3 because we have 3 tiers of service. So we have 3 different sort of ideal clients. But even just having a strong sense of who your audience is, age, demographics, psychographics, knowing who it is that you want to reach, because your most products and services are not designed for everyone. They're designed for a specific someone. So getting a really strong handle on that. Yeah. And then I also think the customer journey, knowing all the points across their experience that they touch from the first time that they ever hear your name or see an ad to the point that they become a loyal client, not even just make the purchase or commit to the service, but extending that into the loyalty, understanding or defining what all points you want to be on that journey. I think are probably 2 of the most essential. There's a lot in marketing, like we've talked about the creative side, the copy, understanding that. But I think for the person who is really the business person who knows the big picture of what they're trying to do. Typically these business owners are big picture guys and gals that, aren't great at the nitty gritty or don't want to spend their time in the nitty gritty. I think having the overarching understanding of who it is you're talking to, what you want them to experience as they encounter your product or service, are probably the two biggest things.
So what you want them to experience when they encounter you or your product or service. That's interesting. It feels like that is a wide open category, and there's a lot of different ways that can happen. So let's run a scenario real quick.
Yeah.
So say I am a person selling a product online. I have a target customer, but I'm trying to think through sometimes the world of the internet feels like it can come from anywhere and you don't know where it can be. So in your head, say I was selling watches. Mm-hmm. What would you be thinking about in that moment to try to think through those customer touch points?
Who is your audience? Where are they showing up online? Are they on Instagram? Or are they on Facebook? So what age demographic? Because those reach two different. There's certainly some overlap. Or are you trying to reach professionals? Is there some element of this watch that is really ideal for the professional? Then you want to be on LinkedIn. So that's the social media piece. But then just in terms of, advertising, showing up online, if you're only e-commerce, you don't have a physical store, most of it's going to be online, and watches are something that, it's not local to an area. So you don't need to really think about print advertising. There's also the gift of rolling stuff out. Mm-hmm. What within the marketing world do you not even need to think about? And just take that off your plate. Don't let it distract you.
That's actually really helpful to think about. Yeah.
And it's not that you can't do those things. There are certainly physical products, but if it's small, if you're starting out, print probably isn't going to be the way to go because it's going to be very narrow focused. There's certainly national publications, but those are going to cost so much to get into. So I think it comes back to who is your target and what do you want them to feel? What's special about this watch? What differentiates? So that's probably another big piece of it is what's your differentiator? There's a million watch brands on the market. So what is it that sets yours apart? And how do you want people to feel when they're wearing it or when they're looking at your watch? So if I take that to the industry I'm in, financial services, we want to give people the feeling of peace of mind. And for some people, that comes from equipping them. We kind of talk about our clients as they're the CEO of their life. Let us be your CFO. And that makes them feel like they've got the overarching ownership. We're just helping orchestrate this one piece. Other people, that's not their frame of reference. They're not in that world. So you need to know your customer. Who is your audience? How do you talk to them? How do you show up where they are? Mm-hmm. So I think kind of that, vibe is such a trendy word, but it's what do you want them to feel? What's the vibe you want them to have as relates to your product? And that's also going to tailor where you show up, what websites, who do you want to be kind of associated with?
Yeah. So then are there tools that exist to say my customer is like this, where would I find them? Does that exist out there?
Probably not that I'm aware of in a super broad sense. Every individual platform, maybe not every, most have a set of psychographics that you can dig into, that you can figure out. So, you can really quickly and easily Google, what's the age demographic that uses any given platform. There's a lot of information about different brands and you could figure out which different brands you want to affiliate with based on, or not even affiliate, but show up on their website. Do you want to show up on ESPN, on sports things? Is it a sport related thing? And that demographic information is out there. But I don't know if there's one tool or one organization that is really doing that as a whole. That'd probably be
business idea.
Right. That'd be a great question for somebody in an agency.
Yeah.
How do they source that for clients?
Yeah. Then another question I have, because I'm in the B2B space, is LinkedIn dead? Is LinkedIn still a place that is worth spending investment in?
I would say yes.
Yes, it's dead?
No. Yes, it's worth spending investment in.
Okay.
It's a place we continue to invest, organically posting as a company. We're actually just starting a campaign to get more employees posting and helping them make that easier because of our compliance constraints so that they feel comfortable. But I also can say that it's attributed to a recent client acquisition because of engagement on being a real person. So it's someone that we had worked with in the past that already knew of our firm. So it wasn't the awareness factor. They didn't learn about us through LinkedIn, but being on there and engaged, myself and one of our advisors brought us top of mind again, gave them the opportunity to engage. There were a couple months of like shared posts and interactions, and then a phone call and a meeting and a signed wealth management agreement. So
wow.
I'm not attributing it 100% to LinkedIn, but it was absolutely a piece. It takes, 8 to 12 touches really to close a deal in the financial services space, at least at the level of client we work with. And I absolutely give LinkedIn credit for 3 to 4 of those.
Love it.
So yeah, I think LinkedIn, we're still seeing it, but again, it depends on who your audience is. So B2B, I can't really speak to that. We're B2C. Within AMA, we have a great B2B community. There's some people there that probably have some input that would be glad to chat with you about it.
There's that phrase that says always be learning. Who are you learning from right now?
Oh man, lots of people. I think it's important to have a lot of different avenues of learning, that you're not just following the same 1 or 2 people, in my opinion. So in terms of just leadership and management, there's always Simon Sinek, big fan of him. I recently read the book Unreasonable Hospitality. Well, let me correct that. I listened to it.
That counts.
I'm a huge consumer of books, not a huge reader. And people give me flack for that. So the author's name, I'm going to mess up. It's Will something. Phenomenal book, much more about leadership and management than it really is about hospitality. He works in the restaurant industry. So it covers a lot. It gives a lot of examples within the hospitality world. Excellent book. Highly recommend it for anyone leading an organization. Great tips, great ideas on excellent client service and giving above and beyond legendary, memorable client encounters. So that's how it came to my desk. One of our shareholders either heard him at a conference or something came up that he passed it along to me. And it's something that we're considering using to shape our culture as we continue to grow in the next couple of years. So definitely him, but then also a lot of local people. So there's a lot of people on the AMA board that are just stellar at what they do. And so that's been a huge resource for me in learning. So going back to school, getting my master's, learned a lot there, but that's obviously a very finite period of time. And you learn, and I've stayed in touch with some of my professors. One of them is former CEO of the Martin Agency that did the Geico Gecko.
Nice.
And now he has another company, Brand Federation. So constantly learning from him and his partners. But there's also just so much local talent. Cincinnati has so many great marketers. And you've had a lot of people on here. So Amy Vaughn, somebody I'm constantly learning from, the way that she approaches the endeavors she's invested in and just her care for people. It all comes so much back to people. But yeah, Betty Rodriguez-Hakes, she's on our board. She is amazing in the MarTech world. She has opened my eyes to so many resources and tools in such a real world way, things that are affordable. She did a great Cool Tools session during one of our digital marketing communities where it was just, what tools are you using? And, are they free? Are they minimal cost? What do they look like? Who are they scalable for? Just a great opportunity to learn real things that we can apply, because we do have a lot of teams of one. We have people in agencies. We have, they're all across the board. So it's very valuable. Gina Bonar is a phenomenal copywriter. I've learned so much from her. She's on our board. She's been part of the AMA board for 10, 12 plus years, past president. Andy Noller is another phenomenal human, but in the market research world, and has just taught me so much about how to structure survey questions. And, don't waste questions on things you're not actually going to take action on. If you're not going to do something with the data, don't waste the participants' time. So just lots of great local people that you've probably never heard their names, but show up in an AMA event and you'll get some exposure to some amazing people.
Well, I know several of those names that you mentioned, and they are awesome people, and they seem super talented. I've never gotten the chance to work with them directly, but they seem great from the outside.
And they truly are. And that's, I'm super honored and blessed to lead AMA Cincinnati for this period of time and get to learn from them and kind of shepherd the organization for a period of time. And my goal is to leave it better than I found it. But all those people have already done that. I don't have, there's not a lot of work to do because they're doing it. They've already done it so well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the AMA, who would you guys classify your target market for the AMA to be?
Great question. So we are kind of the umbrella marketing organization in Cincinnati and in most of the places where we show up. So Goal is to be the essential community for marketers. So it's pretty broad. We do want to target people within agencies. We want to target basically anybody interested in learning marketing. So it's very broad, which makes it challenging to market to. But it's really everything, we have something to offer for everybody from CMO to small business owner who just needs to kind of understand what's happening to the creatives. We actually just started a new community for design creative people that to give them a place to kind of come and learn from one another, but also bring in educators that can speak to specifically the world they're in, like the B2B community I referenced earlier that, may have some good resources for you. So yeah, I should have a better handle on that. I could talk to our Marcom committee who is responsible for marketing the Marketing Association. But really we're, marketers of all ages, all experience levels, that we can help them connect and that we can help educate.
I like it. Now, would you say that it is also valuable for people who are not marketers? Because I feel like I've met people there at events who are not marketers, but they're somehow connected to the community.
Yeah, I think I'll probably get some crap for saying this, but membership may not make the most sense, but showing it up at some of our events absolutely would.
Your membership guy might get on you for that one.
Yeah, he's not gonna like that. And I want to promote membership, but I also don't want people to waste money. So if membership, which is only about $200 a year, isn't worth it to you, most of our events are $10 if you're not a member. It's affordable. Mm-hmm. When you get to our conferences and our awards events and some of our Trailblazer, our bigger like lunch and learn events, a little more expensive, but a lot of them are also free. Coffee and Conversation, great place to connect. A lot of non-marketers show up there to either meet with marketers. They might be salespeople who, are trying to get people to hire them. But then it's also just a great place to connect. So people who are kind of, on the outskirts of marketing, videographer isn't necessarily fully marketing. It's a skill set that has a lot of purpose and a lot of other pieces that, they may want to show up and connect with marketers, but it may not make sense for them to be full-fledged member. That's probably not, again, the greatest thing for the president of a member association to say, but I'm also a realist. Like it's not I don't want somebody's money if they're not getting the value from it. Mm-hmm. So, come to a couple events, taste and see, and if it makes sense, join. We would love to have you because there's a lot of value in membership. It gets you access to national education, national resources from our larger parent organization. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff either way.
So then you mentioned the conference, and which I've been to a couple of them now. They're super fun. You guys have brought in some amazing heavy hitters talking about the world of marketing. Yeah. Last year, I guess it was this year, but the last conference was, I think you guys used the phrase vibe marketing.
We did.
Which is funny because in online circles, people are starting to dislike the term vibe, whatever. Yeah. But I'm curious, what does that mean? What is vibe marketing if you were to condense it?
I think it's the authentic feeling that you want to give. So it's getting to the root of what is the vibe of your business, your product, your service, and how do you market that? Because so often marketing is dialed down to words or images, but those can elicit feelings. And so it's just a trendy way to say, what is it that you want people to feel, or how do you want them to react to what you're putting out into the world, what you have to offer?
Okay. And so part of that obviously was connecting in the world of AI.
Absolutely.
And I feel like every episode I'm talking about AI because it's just affecting everything right now. As you're seeing the world of AI, I'm thinking of that solo business owner again. Is it, or even the solo marketer?
That's your audience. That's who you gotta be talking to.
Exactly. Is AI actually able to be good at marketing? That's a wide question, I know, but is it actually valuable for marketing, or is it right now a tool that's still just not quite there yet?
I think the key word is tool. I do think it is valuable for marketers. I don't think it's taking it. I think for the solo business owner or even the team of one, I don't think it's replacing much. I think it's a tool that's adding to, it's enhancing, it's creating efficiencies, but it's not replacing a ton. In my experience, some of the best uses are to synthesize things. You've got a lot of data. How do we synthesize this? But one of the things that Betty Hakes talks about, she's one of our board members, I've mentioned her, she has kind of coined the term the AI sandwich, where you've got to start with the human, but the meat of it is AI doing the work, but then you've got to end with that human interaction. You can't just let AI run and do its thing and hand that off or publish that. You've got to look at it again. So the human has to really know how to prompt it, how to create the ask in a way that is going to get something reasonable and valuable. And maybe it's a double decker and you got to go back and you got to ask AI for more. And then again, you're the bread at the end of that double decker sandwich. But it's really about the human interaction with AI. I don't think we are near the place where AI can just run rampant. I think you've got to understand it well enough how to ask it to do what you want to do. And we were even talking about this in one of our AMA events recently, where it's like, I could probably not use AI to create a great ad, but someone who is a creative probably could, because they know how to refine that ask and be very specific and then tweak it, do that work on the end. But if I ask it for an ad, it's gonna need so much extra work that it's not worth it. I have phenomenal graphic design partners. I trust them, and I trust them to use AI if that's a great resource for their work, but I ask them to be transparent with me about it. So I have a great video partner, and he even said, hey, on this project, here's how I'm going to handle it. I'm going to be there obviously and record it all, but my first pass is going to be to send it through AI and have it break out how many clips that it recommends, and then we'll massage them and clean them up from there. Love it. I am all for my vendor partners using AI to make their jobs easier, to create better work, more timely. It ends up costing us a little bit less. So if we can save money because, he's not hand editing things to the nth degree, he's doing a first pass with AI and then can come back and add stuff in, clean it up. It cut out too many ums and ahs. That makes people sound real. We wanted some of those in there. So
your vendor talked to me the other day about some of those AI tools that he's using. They sound really cool. We are not using them personally, but they sound dope.
Yeah. And that's where the trust comes in of having great relationships and partners. And I don't want to get into the nitty gritty and control whether they can or can't and how much. And I trust them to do their job. I've hired them to create this product, and I'm very involved. And one of the other things that I've talked with him specifically about is, he's like, how can I do this A to Z? And I'm like, as an in-house marketer, you can never do it A to Z. You can do it A to X, really B to X, because I've got to start it and I've got to finish it. I've got to have the initial ask. But then, you do all this amazing work, but then I've still got to make sure in my case, I've got to take it to compliance, the wonderful compliance regulations. And then potentially there's some additional work that comes from that. But there's always, that in-house piece where you're always going to have to touch it again. No vendor can really do everything for you A to Z, which is why it's always interesting to me. I have a friend who, her organization is removing marketing as a whole, and they're just going to use an agency. And I am very curious to see how that works, because I feel like, and I believe you need somebody in-house that understands it, understands your brand message, understands your story and the expertise around the brand. So I don't know how you can fully outsource that. I outsource a lot of pieces of it, but I feel responsible for the brand management, the message, the integration. So I'm really interested to see how that pans out.
So in the space that you're in, where you manage a lot of different partners, a lot of different things, if you were to hire somebody under you, what would that person do in the world of marketing for you guys? What would you find the most valuable to bring in-house?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I've started thinking about that because I do have phenomenal administrative support, which is really helpful in the world I'm in with all the compliance. So a big part of what she does is manage the compliance approval process and the forms and all of that. And I needed that support because it's tedious. But in terms of having an actual marketer on my team, it would probably be a copywriter. Because what we do is so, it's a very saturated market and we need to stand out. So it would be invaluable to me to have somebody on the team that I could really get to understand our business, because I do the most rework on copy that I get from my vendors. because they understand our industry to a degree. And most of them have financial planners or investment managers they work with. But again, we, in my mind, operate at a level that communication needs to be very refined and very specific. And it's not really even a niche market because we're serving a pretty broad market, but it's just that understanding of, how do you get across the concept of peace of mind without using the words peace of mind a million times. And so, we try to trigger that with the visuals that we use, and the words and kind of the combination of those. But that's a good question. I think a copywriter would be really helpful.
So imagine I am a college student right now. And one of the things that I'm hearing from business owners all over the place is they're like, schools are not teaching the actual things that people need to know when they come out and get into a job. And so as a business owner, I heard one business owner say, oh yeah, I want to hire these IT guys, but I'm going to have to spend $30,000 just to train them in all these systems that they were never trained in college. So obviously the cost to acquire that talent goes way up. So to make a marketer who is going into school right now more attractive, what do you think that they need to know that maybe school isn't teaching them?
I think that's hard because in defense of academics, it's really hard to get curriculum approved that is on trend. You know what I mean? So I think that's why a lot of them focus on the foundations and the ideas behind marketing. And that's invaluable. So I think, marketing applications, marketing systems, marketing software are changing so rapidly that it makes sense to me that kind of like your technology example, they're not going to come out of school necessarily knowing Salesforce, which is a CRM, or knowing, specific marketing or MarTech platforms. But I think the important stuff is that foundation. I think it's understanding the importance of the integration between the words and the copy, and that the story has a through line, that it's not, your website doesn't look one way and then your social media presence looks a completely different way, that your voice is consistent. So I'm big on the foundations. I don't know what I would say they need to learn because I don't think it makes sense to focus too much on any given trend. So there was a time where, a lot of social media content curators were coming out of college, and it's like, it's only going to last so long. Social media isn't going to live forever. Well, it's probably going to live forever, but you don't need that level of expertise. AI, great tools, but they're ever changing. And so an investment in that specifically in education, I think that's, to bring it back to AMA, that's where organizations like ours, and there's a lot of other great education-oriented organizations in Cincinnati and across the country that can help with that. So I really think getting the fundamentals in college is huge, and then get the niche education you need outside of it, whether it's HubSpot courses, Sprout Social courses, or an organization like AMA where we have education around AI and how to write an excellent prompt. And, we have this digital marketing community that's really, helping people find these tools. So I think I'm always going to be an advocate of learn the fundamentals, come out well-rounded, and then figure out what you want to focus on.
The reason I asked that question is because there's a skill that I feel like I've identified in you that you haven't really talked about.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm really curious about. How did you learn the skill of coaching leadership in your discipline? Because it's very interesting. You've talked a lot about how you communicate to the other people inside of your organization in a way that they understand. And I feel like knowing a bunch of other marketers, it feels like a frustration they have is, leadership doesn't get it. Like, this isn't a thing that is understood, or they're not on trend, or they don't get like, hey, this is a thing you should do, and it gets attention. How did you learn that skill? And and I believe it's valuable. Have you seen it reap benefits?
Yeah, trial and error, unfortunately. I get the opportunity annually to present to our board of shareholders, basically what I've been doing for the last year. And I think it was probably before that. So our managing partner is phenomenal. And so I kind of preview my presentation with him and get some feedback. And the very first time I used way too much jargon. So I think a big part of it is speaking a language that people understand and also knowing what's important to them. So financial services, money, dollars, numbers matter. So a big part of my presentation, is not fun as it is about the data. The money we spent on different resources and different efforts, and then also where we can attribute some ROI. What has the impact been? But I also think it's always compelling when you can relate to them. So I know some of the struggles of the advisors and trying to bring in new clients because they're responsible for it. So speaking to that, acknowledging that, getting on their level with that. But it also comes back to having good relationships with them. There are a number of shareholders in our organization that I am regularly in their doorway being like, hey, can I get your input on this? And they feel a sense of ownership then because they had a say in how we shifted the podcast. So we are entering season 5 of our podcast and we're making a major shift. Up until now, it's been all about wealth and life. And so it's been, financial planning things, investment things, some kind of 101 level things, other more detailed. And we're shifting to continue to humanize into a series about our advisors. And so each episode will be an intro to this person. And we want that to be a warm way to be able to connect and our existing clients to be able to share them, be like, hey, look, this is my advisor. And I had no idea they fostered cats or whatever it was, and share that with people they care about that may benefit from our services as well. Mm-hmm. But having had a couple crucial conversations, I have a handful of shareholders that feel ownership of helping make that decision. And that always helps. Because then when you're sitting there in that presentation and I'm, standing in front of those 14 invaluable people, a lot of them knew what was coming and they can say, yeah, I had a part in that. And I got to be a part of that decision and I support it. And so you've got the buy-in in the room with you. So I don't know if that completely answers your question, but it comes back to relationships.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. And I think that's a key thing that I'm seeing missing in the majority of the workforce.
Because we're not trained on it. It's not part of college curriculum. Unfortunately, between, increasing technology and even COVID, those connection points got severed or get reduced, and you've got to put in the effort and you've got to find common ground. And you've got to be intentional about it. It doesn't, with some people, it happens naturally and really easily. With most people, you've got to put in the work. And when it's people that you didn't choose, I entered into this organization and, I didn't get to pick who the shareholders are and what their interests are and how much they care about the numbers. But I get to learn that and I get to speak to that and help them understand that I'm trying to see things the way you see things. I'm trying to evaluate this in a way that you appreciate, and that speaks volumes to them, I hope.
Awesome. Well, so before we sign off, I should say a special thank you to the Foster Motley compliance guy that's going to watch this whole episode. Thank you. Thank you for making it all the way to the end.
Yes.
But Betsy, seriously, thank you. This has been great. I think this has given me a lot to think about. And I hope everyone else a lot to think about how to think about marketing, how to think about communication, how to think about... I think it's actually super valuable that people walk away with the understanding of marketers are not this one size fits all person. That's not who they are. They're just really great at working with other awesome people and making awesome content. I think that's super valuable. If people want to reach out to you, connect with you, how would be the best way to do that?
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn. Betsy, I think it's Betsy L. Wolking, but last name is Wolking, which, sounds German. We're German. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best way, or you can email me at betsy@fosterandmotley.com.
Awesome. And if they're interested in getting connected with the AMA?
AMAcincinnati.org. You can find our event calendar there, or reach out to if you look at the board of directors, any of us would be glad to educate and entertain.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Braving the cold that it is outside right now.
All good. Worth it.
Glad you're here.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks so much for listening to the Cincinnati Business Podcast. If you like the show, the best way to support us is to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you fantastic content just like this. And if you are a greater Cincinnati-based business owner who has something you want to share with the world, reach out to me at brian@cincinnatipodcaststudio.com.